So here's an example of me putting into practice this incredible framework, the Adept as Fuck system for savage self-expression. And it goes like this. Audience, very simple, upcoming strategists. They're the people that I mostly write for. If I try to write for a different audience, I feel that I'm grabbing at straws a little bit, or I might write something that I'm really happy with, but it doesn't find an audience. 2, desperation. I gotta tell you that the desperation that I connect with projects stuff that I've felt working in advertising agencies for years. And that's that a lot of the people that I cherish, people whose minds are beautiful and brilliant, but sometimes get sidelined, sometimes they're in environments that don't know how to make the most of them. And that can feel really bad. It can feel like you're being gaslit for years, like you've got something to offer to the world, but the world doesn't want to take it from you. And so that's the desperation that I personally connect to. I identify with it myself, but I also know it exists out there with the people for whom I write. End goal. Look, for the upcoming strategists, their end goal is really one of respect. It's not the end goal, but in the relative short to medium term, most upcoming strategists, they want to get their fundamentals in place. They want to feel that they're being treated with respect at work. They want opportunities. And so what I really think about is writing to a strategist who's yearning to get respect, but is also willing to work for that respect. And obviously, the goals that come from that are an excellent livelihood and hopefully a most excellent life. There are a ton of pain points that you come across as you write, and there's this concept in venture capital that I want to talk to you about. It's called deal flow. So successful investors attract a lot of potential deals. They have good deal flow. A lot of people want their money. The more you write in public, the more you are in public, the more you teach in public, the more questions you get, the more anecdotes you hear, and you kind of get this flow of ideas. So idea flow. When it comes to pain points, there are tens, hundreds. Some of the most common ones that I hear about are the strategist feeling sidelined, feeling like they're not being mentored or trained or put forward for opportunities. Many strategists will talk about imposter syndrome. A lot of strategists will talk about thinking too much or overthinking, not knowing when they've gone through enough confusion and how they can pop out with a little bit of clarity. A lot of strategists use too many big words to sound smart, and under all of this can be this weird dynamic where as we're coming up, we often think we need to separate ourselves, who we feel we truly are, even if we don't have the vocabulary to describe that, from who we are in the professional realm. And so a pain point that is maybe not explicit in the mind of an upcoming strategist, but one that I definitely write to, is a lack of self-understanding. When it comes to topic, I'm unafraid of having a relatively broad topic that I investigate, and that's strategy. The way that I would describe the topic that I get around is practical strategy techniques while helping people understand themselves or study themselves better. And that combination of things is something that I've been around for well over 10 years, but in recent years, and as I've gotten older and as I've talked in front of more audiences and tested more vulnerable content, as I've run exercises where we don't talk about brands, we talk about the way that they talk to themselves, maybe criticism, feeling like an imposter. What I've come to understand about how I can fit into the world, at least now, is taking practical strategy techniques and connecting them to the psychology of the strategist, as in teaching them a big part about how to do strategy by helping them understand their heads better. So that's my topic. When it comes to the authors or the voices that I access, there are a few that I find floating around my head that I try to put into my work. And it might be that they, or one of them, dominates one piece of writing, or perhaps within one piece of writing, I access a couple of them. I definitely write with a direct elder guy vibe. As I get older, I feel impatient, compassionate, but I want to say things directly and quickly because, life is short. I do have this Aussie sarcasm that's been in me since I was really, really young. It'll come out in kind of weird ways, sometimes inappropriately. I think a lot of the banter in Australia is very sarcastic, at least when you're young. And that's in me a little. So I let that out every now and then. And then there's sort of this manic clown that I'll let out. And I think in the introduction to my book, it's a couple of thousands of words long. I talk about Andrea Pirlo and Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride. And I allow myself to unleash a slightly maniacal voice. And I think unless you realize that that book is trying to be a bit unusual, a bit weird, it might seem that I'm a bit nuts.
But I wanted to tap into a stream of consciousness and just let it out. And so that's a voice that I'll access every now and then. And also I have a little bit of a sad boy voice. I'm a friend of melancholy. I don't want to lead with that voice too often because it's a big buzzkill, but it's in me. And every now and then, maybe I'll write a sentence or a paragraph that feels a little self-pitying. And I know the voice that I'm accessing there. So there are 4 voices that I access. When it comes to formats, I have a variety of formats, but largely I turn up on the internet with serif words. I love a serif. Black and white type, yellow highlights, and in carousels and long reads. They're the main formats that I tend to access. And yeah, sure, they become part of a personal brand, and I'm aware of branding techniques and I keep them in mind. But my point is really to focus on the writing, not the branding. The branding is just good hygiene. So that's how I would approach filling in my own Adept AF system for savage self-expression. May you enjoy filling in yours.